welcome to the ChiCast. This is your voice of mindfulness, Marcus Julian Carbo, coming to you live from TCWM Studios here in the city of brotherly love. And I know, it's been a while. It's been a long while, and I know. And that's part of the reason I'm here today. Because today I'm thinking about us. I'm thinking about the podcast. I'm thinking about the channel. I'm thinking about everything. I mean, I know I've been gone a while. I'm sure you have too. And for you, maybe it didn't seem so long. I don't know. It's interesting how these things go. How one experiences time in the moment, as far as an event is concerned, and how everyone else experiences it outside of that moment, if you will. When I opened my window, there was a little thunderstorm, and now there's no draft, so didn't want it to rain or into the back of the supervillain screen there. So I had a couple of moments of thoughts recently in my studies and my talks with many of you, and that's why I came in today. That's why I'm streaming. That's why I'm here with the Hampaw, the fabulous Odysseus Kufu, taking a nap right here at the bottom, right off screen. He is so adorable. Oh my god. Anyway. So, I wanted to go live today and talk plainly, talk about where I've been, what's been happening, where I'm going, these sorts of things. And in doing so, just chat, see where it takes us. I already tried this once, and why I got fancy in the audio, fixing the audio, and getting everything to set up, it's kind of like a PowerPoint slide back here, or a Canva slide. You're going to have to make the change on every single slide, right? So if anyone's ever worked with Stream Deck, you have different plate sources that you can put up here. That's how I get all these, fancy fonts and all that kind of stuff. Anywho, you don't want to hear that. My tangents are just my tangents. So obviously, the big thing is what have I been doing since I kind of dropped off the face of the earth, in a sense, the last several months? And I think the important answer, the most simplistic answer, is healing. 2022 has been a year. It's been a year. It's hard to think about. I don't think I've experienced something like this in quite some time. And it got to a point where I recognized that despite the fact that things were insane, I still needed to heal. Now, this can be a difficult choice to make. This is going to be a difficult choice, not in the sense of, oh, woe is me, the world's going to miss me. Not at all. It was the games that we play in our own minds. The, oh, but I'm one of the healers. I'm a Tai Chi guy. I'm a mindful guy. I can overcome this. I can muscle through this. That's like saying a doctor can't get sick. Sure, a doctor may know to take certain steps so that they are relatively more healthy than the average person. They may exercise because they know one should exercise and be incredibly healthy compared to the average person. But as I learned recently, I had my own bout with COVID. Um, whew, viruses don't care. If you get sick, you get sick. Period. So there was that come to Jesus moment, if you will. How do I move forward if I don't heal from the things that have happened? Now, there's a question of, well, are they still happening, or is it over and now we're picking up the rubble? I do believe we're learning the extent of the rubble, but in clearing said rubble, new opportunities and pathways and new light emerges, which is what this is all about. That's how we see that ends are beginnings and beginnings are endings. Not to say, when we say don't get attached or let something go, it's not to say don't enjoy your dinner or don't, miss the passing of your hamster. It's to say that in the end, a moving forward, that number one, it was never yours, and number two, it is truly never lost. There's a duo there, right? Now, this is not the case for all situations. This is not the case in every single trauma. So let me just put that out there first. Okay. But in my case, at least, and it's not to say that I am quote unquote healed, but it's to say that I've gotten to a point and a place where I can at least say hi again. Because as a healer, I had to go off and do my own thing. Same as you guys once had to. Maybe that's what brought you here. Certainly that's what brought me to Tai Chi. I had a teacher at that time. I've had amazing teachers. I've been so lucky in that department. This is one of the first times I have been without a teacher. Except I am a teacher. Now, I'm not immune from sickness, just like a doctor. But I can and do know the steps to take in order to help aid in the recovery process, which sometimes is to rest and let your body do what it needs to do. In the same token, just like your body, your mind is no different. We give ourselves so much credit, don't we, to think that the thinky part, the part that's aware, the part that's driving, if you will, is somehow separate from the rest of it. The part that grows your nails, the part that translates photons from light into information that your brain paints as the world. You consciously don't know. We consciously don't break down that process. Can you imagine every time you took a breath in, you had to break down every scent that was in the air? Much better, much, much better to get the scent. It sets off an alarm if necessary. It's a new thing in the air. And suddenly you know Grandma's cooking has arrived through the front door. Or at least you have arrived through the front door of Grandma's house. The alarm can be amazing. Ooh, it's dinner time. Or that great loaf of bread. It's just... You ever walk into a good bakery or any place that really cooks bread? I highly recommend. So anyway, trying to heal. Part of the healing process is understanding one's true situation. Where do you stand? Good, bad, ugly. Where do you stand? Who are you right in this moment? If I'm this Tai Chi guy, then I need to put that practice to work. What Tai Chi, what Taoism, or the Tao Te Ching at the very least teaches, is you shouldn't focus on your weaknesses so much. If your weaknesses are you're poor, you're not the right checked boxes for wherever you live or wherever you're doing, the system is beating you the hell down. No joke, no nonsense. You're banging into that glass ceiling. That's real legit. I almost lost the mindfulness there. See, that's where mindfulness comes in. We're talking about real world stuff here, not some trite whatever that's being peddled as toxic positivity, New Age guruism, or really a return back to 1960s New Ageism. That's cute and all. But why is it that so many of you sound the same? How is it that so many strangers can be in a room together and there's not a single novel thought in the crowd? I had to make sure I wasn't playing a part of that, because for a time I did. And in healing, being honest with yourself, being honest with how you arrived, the stuff that we deny about ourselves, those things that we don't talk about to others. I'm not asking you to broadcast things. No. But seeing them for what they are. Seeing complexity and yet breaking things down to their simple parts. You know, just like those multiplication trees that we had back in grade school. Same idea. By making things simpler, breaking things down into their individual parts, the complexities fall away, because oftentimes the complexities that are thrown in front of us are there to kind of bamboozle us, to prevent us from seeing what's actually going on. I'm not saying in a conspiratorial kind of way. I'm saying more of a carrot and stick kind of way. And it happens. Your history teacher puts on a show and screams and shouts at certain points in the class because he wants to gain your attention. She wants to get your engagement, so she shocks you out of that humdrum of academia, brings you into the moment. That's good, right? The conversation where something you've never heard before gets said, a novel idea, which causes you to re-examine whatever it was you were talking about in that moment. That's it. Right there. And in those moments, we get a chance to break away from that groupthink, get away from, honestly, what led us to where we were in the first place. That was the hardest thing to kind of come to terms with. Is that oftentimes we walk where we are willingly. We just didn't realize that's where we were going. And then we wake up. And the problem is you're still where you are. And now we've got to walk out of that. And depending on where you woke up, you may have to walk out of a whole lot. In that way, life is not fair. The fairness, the balance, comes in the understanding of where you are. There's no shame in not having some broken story of being from a poor family with abuse and trauma and this, that, and the other. It's perfectly fine to come from a happy home from the suburbs where nothing ever happened. Because there are things that you had to endure differently, number one, and places where you can aid those people who are in need that those people cannot see, number two, if you would only listen. On both sides, right? I don't want to do the on both sides thing that certain people did. But when we're trying to get to the bottom of things, we do need to listen to each other. Because when we don't, we just start making stuff up. And that never works. And so part of that healing is getting away from that groupthink, getting away from getting wrapped up in sort of culty thinking, right? But make no mistake, though, the root word of culture is cult. So I'm not saying this in necessarily a bad way. I'm not saying this in a naive way in any shape or manner. What I'm saying is you recognize the parts of the culture that are simply there and the parts that are there to work. You can adopt those parts. But first, you have to step away. When we step out into life, when we step out into culture, you have to remember you're given how many different denominations and divisions and whatever. Out of the beginning, you're getting a race and an ethnicity and a nationality and a sports team and a gender and a future, and you got a college. And you haven't taken your first free breath yet. When we wake up, when it's time to heal, there's a lot to heal from. Far more than just whatever happened in the moment. Far more than that moment when you smashed into a tree at 70 miles an hour, or you had that loss of a job, that loss of a loved one, loss of a relationship or an opportunity. Because you'll notice, if those things keep happening, and they do. I certainly repeated the same cycles for many, many years. They keep happening when you don't go that step deeper. Because There's always something else. What's that other layer? Because it's easy to point out to other people what's wrong with them. That's what politics does. Hey, these people bad, these people good. Choose a side. That's very simplistic, but okay. What we want to do is understand that we are a part of the whole. Healing allows us to mentally open up. Healing allows us to let go of that mental tightness, to let go of that shame. Healing allows us to find simplicity. Healing allows us to find patience. Healing allows us to find compassion. But understand, I have not once said one must become healed. Not once. The idea that any one of us, at any point in time, in any generation, that any of us will see is somehow going to achieve whatever, nirvana, perfect form, Ubermenschen, whatever that is, that Superman, right? The Jedi mind. That's not going to happen. Not with anybody that's here. But everybody that's here will push us somewhere, either toward or away from that direction. Because the plane is always level. Shift too far on one end, and something will crop up on the other end. That's just how it works. That's the yin and the yang. So the key is to find the balance. The key is to make sure all interests are met. And part of your interest is making sure you are healthy, physically, mentally, and I'm going to say internally. Not necessarily spiritually. I'm going to say internally, because you can be an atheist and be big into mindfulness. That's not, there's no issue with that whatsoever. And you can be Islamic, which is one of the more mindful religions that are out there. 5 times a day you're praying, and you can be completely non-mindful in every other aspect of your life. You absolutely can. All right? So in each of those conversations, in each of those ways, they're simply filters. They're not guides. They're filters by which to approach the world, by which the universe needs to see through. We need both. That's the important part, right? So part of my healing was to go off and do that. It was to figure out what were my weaknesses and kind of put them on a list and sort of forget about them. What are my strengths? What are the things that I can do? What are the things that I'm very good at? And how do they translate to the vision that I have? Well, I don't have a vision because there's always more people involved in this. And that's when I realized part of the issue was just I needed to chat with you guys. I needed to just come on. Whenever it was, whenever I was inspired, just do it. Let's not worry about schedules right now. Let's not concern ourselves with deadlines just yet. Let's just talk. Let's just come together. Let's do what we can do. What's our strength? Well, if you ever taken my class, making stuff on the spot, that is my cup of tea. And that is the point of the practice. That's what we used to see when Bob Ross would do his thing. He would just, we would have a blank canvas and suddenly a masterpiece. And it's because of those 10,000 hours. It's because of that practice. And that's why practice is so doggone important. Because it was through my practice that I finally got to this point to come and live stream with you guys today. One of the things that were going on in 2022 was my cycling has been all off. I was having major issues with the bike itself, and I had to get surgery. And neither went well. Right? The surgery was fine, but the recovery time took way longer than anybody expected. Debilitatingly so. And that has been rough. And I was beating myself up. But then I thought back, hold on now. You didn't start cycling. You started doing Tai Chi. So why not go back to your basics? Add another day of Tai Chi on the days that you should be cycling. And up your Tai Chi on those days. Really make it about a cardio run. Don't just grind it out. Have fun with it the way you have fun with your cycling. And so I started doing that. And through that practice, it showed me that what I needed to do was the same thing here. Because I got stuck on trying to make the perfect show, to make the perfect situation for you guys, the most entertaining show. But right now, I'm still a little baby. I'm still learning. I'm still all thumbs. But you all understand that. And the only one putting pressure on me is me. Which is true about all things. The only one that was making me feel bad about the cycling was me. I found another way. Right? Now, sometimes the other way is insane. And by insane, I mean it can result in things like homelessness or a lack of resources or security. So I don't say this lightly. I'm keeping things positive, and keeping things upbeat, keeping things smooth. But I am not unaware. And if you would walk in step with me in 2022, you would not have wanted you would not have traded places with me. Very few of you would. I'll say that. It's not so much a measurement as it is a reminder that we all go through so much. And there was a point where I just needed to heal. I needed to step away from the public face for a little while. I needed to mourn. I needed to cry. I still need those things. But that doesn't mean that we stop doing what we're doing. Not completely. So I'm going to build my muscles back. And I'm going to ask you for the same thing, especially if you're watching to this point. If you are, I want to thank you, number one, for doing that. But number two, be sure to be sure to subscribe, and to share. The idea of the ChiCast is to talk real, is to be positive, but not in a negative, not in a toxic way. To understand that if the water is moving and life is a river, well, There's always, that water is always going somewhere. Now, where it may be going, it may batter and bruise us. It may put holes in the boat. We may have to get out of the boat altogether. And then we may be forever changed. We may incur an injury that we're always going to carry with us. That's real. But you'd be surprised what you can learn to overcome, learn to live with, and learn to find fuel to drive you to be something different. Yeah. In that way, it is a born again sort of situation where a version of you dies and all of the things that mattered to that version go away. Not completely. There's never a clean break. After all, we're always connected. But you'll have new connections. You'll have new friends. You'll have new opportunities. You'll have a new life. This isn't a culty thing. If you find yourself hanging out in one place all the time, it better be your workplace. And workplaces can be cults too. So be careful with that. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put my schedule in order and produce as I produce. There's just a few of us behind the scenes that are working this right now, but more are coming. And this is us working together. So, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for hanging out with me on the ChiCast today. As just a reminder, approach the world with simplicity. Have patience for others. And be compassionate to yourself. Till I see you again. Peace and love.